Hello everyone, this is Sodhi from CAAN Wings Consultants. Let's get started with the new topic today. So in my last video, I talked to you about the state of Northern Territory. Now, with us heading towards the end of the migration year 22-23, people are looking at assessing the nomination opportunities available to them in these 2 months, that is May and June. Realistically speaking, while the 190 visa is primarily invitation based, majority of the states also send out invitations for a 491 nomination. So there are 2 states where you can proactively apply for a nomination directly. That is the state of NSW and the state of Northern Territory. The state of NSW has issued a very large number of nominations for 491 because they have a huge occupation list. They have a very minimal criteria such as 65 points, expands in each section, and no work experience required. So a lot of people have taken advantage of these relaxed criteria. And with most of the regions almost done with the quota, about I think 3 or 4 are still open to direct applications. Therefore, if your occupation happens to be listed on the state of NSW, please grab it. Do not keep on waiting for 190 because as far as 190 nomination is concerned, it's a very competitive process, and then you're dependent upon the states to issue an invitation. You can't proactively take any action. Now, the purpose of this video is basically to talk about the state of Northern Territory. So as I look at it, historically speaking, I always saw Northern Territory as a very conservative state where they were very specific about the documentations they needed, and they were very stringent about the documents. On the one hand, where a state would just be happy with you just giving out basic documents like your EOI, your skills assessment, your English proficiency score, educational employment documents, etc., the state of Northern Territory would expect an applicant to go far beyond that. The state of Northern Territory would want you to first of all prove that you have the financial capacity to support yourself in Australia, and they would want some legal papers to support that. For example, they want a CA report that states your liquid assets, your fixed assets, etc. They would also want sponsorship letters in case you, or let's say affidavits in case the assets do not happen to be in your name. And then their commitment to NT was put to a very stringent scrutiny where a lot of applications would be refused, stating that you're probably not committed to living in Northern Territory, which is why we cannot give you a nomination. So that was a huge bummer for a lot of applicants. And the third one was the job research. The state of Northern Territory wanted you to conduct a very thorough job research, connect with the employers, get responses from them, and then present your job research to them in a very professional manner in order for them to be convinced that you have done some genuine job research. Now with that, some clients, of course, have been kind of, a little reluctant to apply for the state of Northern Territory because, going through such arduous task of compiling these documents, you never know, the state of Northern Territory might end up and say, well, everything is in place, but we're not unable to issue a nomination because you're not convinced that you have demonstrated your commitment to live in Northern Territory. And also, the reason why Northern Territory was not an state applicants were looking at was because Northern Territory had primarily been closed to offshore applicants all this time until a couple of months back when it started accepting applications from offshore applicants. Now, what has happened is there's been a drastic change. The Northern Territory has, while it is a direct application process where an applicant goes onto their online portal and submits an application along with, of course, all this documentation that I just talked about. Now the Northern Territory has started to select applicants from the EOI. So obviously before you lodge your before you lodge your application for nomination with a particular state, you have to lodge your EOI and indicate that state as your preferred state. So let's say anybody who's lodged an EOI for Northern Territory and stated NT as the preferred state, the state of NT is very likely to pick you up, to select you, to invite you, and send an invitation to you, which is known as a pre-invite, saying that we have selected you, and all you need to do in order to be considered for nomination is just send, answer our email, send a reply to our email, writing your full name. That is all. No documents required. Nothing in terms of financial documents, nothing in terms of commitments, in terms of job research, your EOI, your work experience, your education, nothing. And the most surprising thing, while it seemed too good to be true, we had our fingers crossed as to whether these nominations would be issued at all or not. And to our shock, we started to receive nominations in as less as 48 hours. That is huge. Therefore, those of you who are looking at being invited or getting invitations, please do consider Northern Territory, because they could not be relaxing their criteria as much as they've relaxed today. Now, with this, I would also like to warn you a little bit that when you're being nominated by a state which is not really looking at your work experience or any of your documents, obviously the onus is on you to ensure that you meet the acid test of the DHA. See, anybody who's applying for Australia migration has to clear 3 stages. One is the skills assessment, the second is the state nomination, and the third is the Department of Home Affairs, your visa application. Many clients who got their skills assessments, who got their nominations, could have problems at the DHA state, because they have their own criteria, own parameters to individually assess your application and take up questions with you, which the skills assessment body or probably the state nomination body never bothered to take up with you. Therefore, once a state has scrutinized your application, at least you can be sure that they have kind of given you a go ahead, and the DHA criteria is only left to be looked into. But when a state is giving you a nomination without looking at any documents, you know that you have yet not passed the acid test in terms of the point score, in terms of the supporting documents you've provided, and in addition to the DHA, you're not sure whether you are even putting up a valid application with the DHA. So those are the things I want you to keep in mind. I think I will keep it limited to this. Until next time, bye-bye and take care.